Hello, world. My name is Shanay Braxton, and we have here with us today Christine Job from Flourish in the Foreign. She is going to be talking to us about why location independence. And I'll give you a small backstory about how Christine and I met. We met at a Wavelength event for the Black Travel Alliance, and I'm so grateful that I met so many other travel creatives, individuals living abroad, and just people in the travel space through Black Travel Alliance, because I've made some amazing connections, and Christine is one of them. So I would like Christine to go ahead and introduce herself, and then we are going to jump right into the topic.
Yeah, I just saw Taylor join us on Instagram. Hey, Taylor. And thank you so much, Shanay, for having me. I'm going to be looking both places because that's just what's going to happen. But hey, everyone, I am Christine Job. I am the creator and host of Flourish in the Foreign. Flourish in the Foreign is a podcast that elevates and affirms the voices and stories of Black women who live and thrive abroad, and really explores living abroad as a pathway to wellness. I live here in Barcelona, is where I'm currently based. I've lived in Spain for the past 4 years, in Barcelona for 3. And my journey to living abroad, was long and hard. Right. I knew I wanted to live abroad since I was 17, and I didn't move abroad till I was 30. So it took a while.
It took some time.
It took some time. I studied abroad in undergrad here in Spain, in Valencia. I studied international business. I studied Spanish and Latin American literature. And, when I graduated from university, it was a really tough time. It was like the last major recession in the United States. And I knew I wanted to go abroad, and I just didn't know how to go about doing it. I knew I wanted to live this lifestyle. I just didn't know how to do it. Basically, I just bugged my mom and was like, Mom, do you know anybody who lived abroad and moved abroad? And she used to be in the military. So she's like, yeah. And so literally, I'm about to age myself. She pulls out her Rolodex, and she's like, just look up these people. So I was like, let me look at this and call people and email people that didn't know who the heck I was. I was like, I'm Adrian's daughter and I want to live abroad. And they were like, okay, girl. That was not helpful. I met some people that was cool. I decided to go to law school. I went to University of Miami for law school. And, I was doing that thing. I knew I didn't really want to practice traditionally. I started to do business consulting in law school. The University of Miami has a pretty well-known entrepreneurial incubator. I was a legal fellow there, and that really started changing the trajectory of my life. I was like, oh, I love this. I love helping people to launch their own businesses, especially young people this is the first time they've ever had their own ideas and really pushing them into manifestation. So I loved that. Loved it so much that when I graduated from university, from law school, I joined the director of that incubator. And she had her own private company in downtown Miami. And about 2-3 weeks after I graduated from law school, we were on business trade mission in Namibia and South Africa. So that was crazy, because I was like, everybody else is in the law library studying for the bar exam, and I'm in Africa. You know what I
mean? Right. That is amazing.
It was really life-changing and
eye-opening for sure.
It was, and I had a really pivotal experience while I was in Namibia. The then U.S. ambassador to Namibia was a Black woman, and so when I met her, and she hosted us in her compound, I was just like, I want to be abroad. I see you can do it. I see what's happening here. I want to be abroad. I want to do it. And so, after that experience, I go home to Atlanta. I start my own business. I launched a music festival. I did all the things that I wanted to do. I kind of went rogue. I was really into entrepreneurship, but I really burnt myself out. I was exhausted. I was used to this kind of frenetic energy that, I don't know, I think American overachievers are kind of ingrained to have.
Having to go. Right.
Yeah. And then going to law school is another crazy dial up to that. So how much you're supposed to be working to how much you're supposed to be sleeping.
Studying. Right.
Yeah, and then taking it into the entrepreneurship world where everyone's like grind, 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 push, push, push.
Wake
And
up
I
at
just
5 and yeah.
exactly. I was at the
Hmm.
gym at 5. I woke up at
Right.
4. I was at the gym at 5. It was nuts. Um, and just realizing, I wasn't liking my life.
Hmm.
I was feeling exhausted all the time. I was feeling just unfulfilled, and I was working a lot, and I just didn't feel like things were really turning out the way I wanted to. I would have successes, and people would be like, "Yeah, you're doing it," but I'm like, "This is not really what I want. Like, this is not.
Hmm.
This isn't it."
I love
And
that you bring up two main things. The first thing you mentioned was the fact that when you were thinking about moving abroad, you didn't know anybody. You didn't have a reference point aside from your mom who was in the military. And then the second thing you brought up was being an avenue for young people that are expressing these new ideas and want to grow in areas where they may not, again, have a reference point or know anyone that's in that space where they can lean on them and get information and network with them. So those are overarching themes that continue to come up when it comes to Black travel, when it comes to living abroad, when it comes to Black expats. Those are always themes because there are so many of us, like myself. When I joined the Peace Corps, I didn't know any other Peace Corps volunteers. I just happened to be looking it up online and I came across it. And then a new world opened up for me. So that is amazing. And I'm so glad that you are sharing your story because I think that it can resonate with so many people, including myself. And so can you tell us, what does location independence mean?
so, yeah, being location independent means that you can do your work wherever you want. You're not attached to a certain city or state. Now, I'll say that there's different kind of phases to location independence. Some people have jobs that are remote that require them to be like on Eastern Standard Time, or even people have remote jobs that require you to be like because of like tax regimes, right? Like you have to, because if you have an employee that's outside of your tax jurisdiction, things can sometimes become complicated, right? So there's different levels to being, location independent. So you could be working remotely, you could be having your own business, or you could be maybe living off of your retirement or your investments and dividends, whatever kinds of assets that you have amassed, and it allows you to move around the world. You're not attached to a certain kind of place, right? Whereas if you get a job abroad, yeah, you're abroad, but you have to like stay in Barcelona or you got to stay in Paris.
Right.
So
Right. So
that
you're
is
technically not location independent in that
location
case.
independence in a nutshell.
Can you walk us through? I know you started to talk about your experience after law school. So walk us through when you first officially became location independent.
Okay, sorry, there's like a little bit delayed. I'm like seeing
I
both of them. I'm
figure.
like, okay. so so sorry everybody, because I'm just looking like what? So so I decided I was burnt out. Like at the time when I graduated from law school, I'd been in Atlanta working, and I was burnt out, and I didn't even know really the language of burnout, right? I was feeling and I was experiencing depression and anxiety, panic attacks, a lot of things that a lot of Black people don't talk about and people in general don't talk about. But I didn't have the language to really talk. I didn't know what it was. It's only in hindsight that I knew what kind of things I was going through. So I decided the thing that I needed to do first was to go on sabbatical. I needed a break. I needed a break from what I was going through, and I decided to move to Spain to teach English for for about 9 months. And that was not a location independent, right? I was living in Spain, I was teaching English. But that experience allowed me to have the time and the space to figure out what I wanted to do next, because I was there, I was teaching 3 days a week, I was working 12 hours, and I had lots of time to figure it out. And what I found is that through networking with the people I knew in La Rioja, Spain at the time, that's how I got my first location independent gig, was because another woman that was doing the same kind of sabbatical program I was doing, she also had an location independent job. We would go to the gym, we would talk about work and things like that. And she was like, you know what? Like, we need someone to write blogs for this company that I work for. Do you want to write the blogs for us? And I was like, sure, let's write some blogs. I don't know, like, yeah. And that was amazing, because that was my first taste of it, of really being, I'm working for a business that's based in DC. I live in Spain, and that's what I'm doing. That opportunity evolved into then getting promoted into doing marketing and sales for the company. And that's a full-time position. I was an employee. I just lived in Spain. So I get paid in USD and everything like that. And just live in Spain. So that was my first taste, or that was my second taste. And then that evolved because that allowed me to then travel a little bit. So, my mom went on a trip. She was in Asia for a couple of months. I got to meet up with her. And that's when I realized I'm not really a digital nomad, because I was like trying to figure out, time zones and staying up super late just for meetings and stuff like that. Being up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning for meetings on Eastern Standard Time because you're in Singapore or you're in wherever, like, that's not my jam personally. But that was when I first started to realize, like, what does my journey look like? So that then evolved into me going back into entrepreneurship, being a business strategist here in Spain, being located here and having clients all over the world.
So what would you tell your younger self about location independence?
I would tell my younger self, sorry, I don't know what's happening. I would tell my younger self about location independence. Oh my goodness. I would have told my younger self to major in computer science, one, because that's like the easiest way to go location independent.
Exactly. Everybody is a web developer. That's a digital nomad or location independent.
Like, that is the thing to do, I think. I'm sorry. I'm messing up everything because my phone is like bugging. So sorry about that.
No worries.
I would have told my younger self to definitely get a skill in computer science in some kind of capacity. Even if you're not a web developer, you don't know JavaScript, something like that. I think that there's so much to do with technology that can be applicable to whatever you do, that would have been like the cheat code, because you can really do it anywhere around the world. But also that's a great way for you to see the world, to have either gotten apprenticeships or internships or jobs around the world that could have solidified you in a different country, and then you can be location independent from that space. That's probably the biggest thing I would have told myself. Another thing I would have told myself is, I probably should have gone to Spain earlier with the program that I did. I didn't know anything about it, which was really strange because I minored in Spanish in university and nobody told me about this program. So I would
the things we don't know.
Yeah, I would have done that. Maybe instead of going to law school, I would have done that instead to figure it out, and been like, okay, let's see. Because it's a really cool opportunity, but like there's so many of these great opportunities. There's one in France, there's one in Japan. So I would have told myself to go out and see that more. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And again, I feel like we're on the same wavelength because I was in that same place. After undergrad, I went to grad school, and it was like, if I had known about Peace Corps before grad school, I probably would have went there first. One, because they would have helped me pay for grad school. And two, because I would have been able to figure out more clearly what I wanted to do, because post Peace Corps, I have way more clarity. Because I've had this new exposure, and I'm comfortable now living out this idea, as you mentioned, helping people to live out this idea. So I'm definitely in that space where I feel more comfortable and confident.
Yeah, definitely. And I would have probably gone to undergrad. And if I did want to go to grad school, I would have gone to Europe because it's way cheaper. Like way cheaper. It's so cheap. If y'all have already paid the money, you already got the student loans, don't even look at the price.
Don't get upset because
Oh my God, that would be so sick. You'd be like, and then Biden be like,
Oh my
I don't want
gosh.
to take your student loans. Sir, it'll make you sick. Don't even look at it. Don't
Yeah.
even.
Yes, because that was the same thing for me when I found out about Peace Corps. I'm like, darn, I'm a little bit too late. And I'm like, well, maybe I could still go back and go to get a second master's degree and have that paid for.
Yeah.
So that definitely is the plan. Walk us through the steps, because you mentioned that you first started off as blogging and then you transitioned and moved up in the company and then you moved back to entrepreneurship. So talk through us the steps about how you set yourself up, like those practical steps for entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're always selling yourself, but also it's the same thing. I think even if you're a professional in any capacity, you're
Mm-hmm.
always selling yourself. And it doesn't have to be cheesy. You're always networking. It doesn't have to be cringy. It's about building relationships and being a valuable resource, period. So if you're coming at it as I'm a valuable resource, then it's never cringy and it's never strange. So I was always doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll even back up a little even more. Before I even moved to Spain, I had walked the Camino de Santiago in 2014. That's when I was like, I want to move to Spain, period. Before I was like, I want to move abroad, but I was like, it could be anywhere. But when I walked the Camino de Santiago, I was like, oh, I'm going to move to Spain for sure. What I did then was I started to network. I went on Facebook and I went on LinkedIn. I created a LinkedIn profile that was directed towards Spain. That was the first thing. Because I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll get a job. I don't know what's going to happen. And then I went into the Facebook groups for entrepreneurs, foreign entrepreneurs in Spain, American Society in Madrid and in Barcelona and the bigger cities. And I just read. I didn't say, hey, everybody, I want to move to Spain. How do I get a job? Which is what a lot of people do. And people roll their eyes and they don't talk to you because you haven't done your research and like they're not trying to do that, right? It's a really basic kind of thing, and they're like, we're not trying to talk to you. So I would sit there and I would just read the comments. I would scroll before I even posted anything. I just read a lot just to see what was going on in the country, what were people doing. And then once I got an assessment of that, I would then post to be like, hey guys, I'm Christine. I'm from here. I'm trying to move here. This is what I do. Does anyone else do this in Spain? Does anybody want to jump on a Skype call? And I had several Skype calls from Atlanta to people who were in Barcelona and in Madrid in WhatsApp conversations before I even moved. Okay, so I had these built-in relationships. I had cultivated these relationships, and then I moved. I moved to Spain in 2017, August 2017. When I landed, a woman that I had been talking to on Facebook said, hey, Christine, let me know when you get to Spain. I have a friend who needs someone with your kind of profile. He's in a IP firm in Madrid, an intellectual property firm for law in Madrid. I was like,
Okay.
bet, sure. Send him my way. I was like, I'm here. I'm just in Barcelona, but I can get on a train. Don't worry about that. I get on a train. So I connected with him. We chatted, and I got a phone interview with this firm in Madrid. Now, did it go anywhere after that? No. But the fact of the matter is I had a phone interview with this company in Madrid, this firm in Madrid, basically 2 weeks after I came into Spain. And it was not on my own doing. I didn't find them on Indeed. I didn't find them on LinkedIn. This was from networking. So this is what I say to people, if you want to be successful in anything, but especially if you want to go like abroad, and if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be really comfortable asserting yourself and pitching yourself and selling yourself. But you do that by becoming a valuable resource so that when people have a problem, they think of you as a solution, and therefore you get an in. Either you get a sale or you get a job, right? That's how I did that. And so I continued doing that when I was in La Rioja. My landlord in La Rioja was an attorney, or he is an attorney. And I was like, oh, really? What's up? Like, and I would talk to him about law stuff, and we would talk about, the differences between Spanish and American law. And I would ask him like, oh, well, do you need any help at your law office? And he's like, girl, you can't even, he was like, I don't even think I can legally hire you. Like, what are you doing? I was like,
wow. So did he speak Spanish? Because I'm assuming that you were fluent in Spanish because you studied it and then you moved to the country. Were you all communicating in Spanish or English or both?
Girl, no, I was not fluent. And this is what's hilarious. I minored in Spanish. I studied abroad in Spain. I lived in Miami and I was not fluent in Spanish. And what's interesting, I think, is because one, Miami is Spanglish, right? You do have
Mm-hmm.
people who speak only Spanish, and it's Caribbean Spanish, so the accent and the
It's
vernacular is
different.
different.
Yeah. It looks like we froze on Instagram.
But really, if you don't, I came back to Spain and I was like, okay, yeah, I speak Spanish now. I was like, no, you don't. Like, it's something that you have to be immersed in and you have to continue to
Yes.
use.
Mm-hmm.
So at first, I was just speaking in English because, you know, fortunately, unfortunately, a lot of people speak English. But then I would speak more and more Spanish, especially living in a place like La Rioja, where a lot of people, the vast majority of the population doesn't speak English. So then you're forced to communicate in Spanish. But, you know, certain jobs, people speak English because
Right.
English is the language of business.
Absolutely. And I will say, to your point, I studied Spanish in undergrad. When I moved to Morocco, I didn't practice Spanish. I didn't move to a Spanish country. I didn't study abroad there. So I had no idea what Spanish was. When I moved to Morocco, I was immersed living with Moroccan host families. And I was able to learn Darija, which is Moroccan Arabic. And it did not take me 4 years like it takes in university,
Yeah.
And so that's one of the main things that I always stress to people is that if you know a language, you have to first practice it. You have to speak it because that's the only way you're going to get better. And you have to do it uncomfortable. You have to be willing to laugh at yourself when you make a mistake and go to these places where they speak it fluently so that you can immerse yourself and be surrounded by the culture and the language. So that those are very important aspects when it comes to language learning and also living abroad. What would you tell someone that is literally just getting started? What advice would you give them?
They're just getting started and they want to become location independent.
Yes.
The biggest thing is that one, I want you to stop saying you'll do anything to be location independent because you won't. And that's the thing. You
That's
won't. And
deep.
my biggest thing is that I want people to not just go abroad or live a location independent lifestyle, but I want you to thrive. It doesn't make any sense for you to be like, yeah, I have a remote job, and I can go wherever I want or whatever, and you're like struggling. Like, who does that? Like, why? Why would you do that? Or I'm abroad, but I'm struggling. Why? Doesn't make any sense. I want you to thrive. It needs to be sustainable, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
first thing you have to do is, I believe, you need to get real with yourself. You need to write down, why do you want to be location independent? Really, why? Like, write it down, not think about it, write it down. It doesn't have to be some like big, grandiose philosophical reason, but you need to know what you're actually trying to accomplish and why you want to do it, so that you have a
Mm-hmm.
clear vision of your intention. So you'll be able to
Mm-hmm.
spot when things are in alignment for you and when they're not. And so you can be really real with yourself. It's really important for you to understand, what does professional wellness mean for you? And really get clear about that. A lot of people associate being employed or having a profession, it's just like, it just sucks because you just have to have a job. But it doesn't have to be like that. So you really understand, like, what does professional wellness mean to me? What does it mean for me to be in alignment with my gifts and services and giving them in a way that feels good? What does that mean when I am engaging in that exchange? How does that feel good for me? How does that feel sustainable for me? How does that feel the opposite of my body and my soul being drained from myself? You know what I mean? Like, what does
Yes.
that feel like? What does that situation look like? Who are my peers? Who is my supervisor? If you have one, whatever it is, what does that look like? Write that down and be real with yourself, because that's really important for you to understand too, because you can have anything in this world, but you got to be clear. And when you say you'll do anything, then the universe will just give you anything and then you'll be mad about it, right? So, and then I think another thing is, it's important for you to really be clear about, what does financial wellness mean to you? What is your number? What is the number that makes your world go round? Yes, you'll be location independent, but being location independent doesn't mean you're going to have a cheaper lifestyle.
Not necessarily, right.
It doesn't. Just because
Mm-hmm.
you have a location dependent job or life doesn't mean you're going to become magically better with money. It doesn't mean you're going to all of a sudden have a lot of money. So you need to really understand, what does financial wellness look like for you? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What are your goals? What is your actual number? Do an itemized list of your current expenses, the expenses that you would still have once you're location independent. where you're trying to go, what kind of lifestyle you're trying to have, what's that budget look like too, and do it realistically. If you love living in a hammock and you just can live in a hammock anywhere in the world, okay. But if you can't, then you need to adjust your budget accordingly and be comfortable with that. Because I think the thing is that a lot of people don't bet on themselves. That's the problem. A lot of people don't bet on themselves, and they just expect the worst. They expect crumbs, and they just hope and plead, and they're just going to make the crumbs just do. They're just going to make do with it. And I'm like, if you are actually clear about what you want, not what society wants from you, not what your best friend is doing, what the Joneses are doing, but when you're actually in alignment with who you are and what you want, and you can state that clearly. Doesn't mean you got to tell everybody. That's why I said write it down, because it's no one else's business. Keep it to yourself. Write down your truth, and you know your truth, and you're moving in alignment with your truth. When you state it, then doors and resources come to you. It really does. Not to sound so woo-woo, but also you become so clear that you can actually see the opportunities. That's the thing. You can see what is for you and what is not for you. That's the first step. That is the first step, because let me tell you, I tell people to do that and they're like, they think it's going to take too much time. But I'm like, but you go on job boards for how many hours every single day applying against thousands and thousands of people, never hearing any kind of feedback from anybody else. And you're like, that's not, you're not going to get a job that way. Okay. Let me just say, I don't know. I've never done a job like that. So, and I don't know a lot of people who've done it. So what I'm telling you is what I know. When you get clear, do that work, because that's also going to be the basis of your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Because this location independence job and opportunity, it's in pursuit of, it's the engine to help you live your best life, right? It's not the end all be all. That's not the holy grail. It's about sustaining this best life for you. So you have to be cognizant of, what does a life well lived look like for me? And what is this new chapter in my life? What do I want it to be? Because that also makes you really accountable to yourself, because you become really, really clear about how you're not showing up for yourself currently. Right? Because you could have this grand life, perhaps, right now. And you really become really aware of, like, I want this, and this. And that's what my vision of my life wants to be. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not doing that. And now I want to make sure I'm doing that. And now I want to be sure that I'm being true to myself. Right? That, I think, is the first step to it. It really is. That's the first one. Not going
to that. I'm all snaps for that, because I was definitely feeling everything that you said. That is amazing. And thank you so much. I knew you were going to drop gems, so I'm not surprised, but that was amazing. Thank you so much. And you actually brought up, like, what everybody else thinks, what your family says, or what your friends say. Talk to us about how your family, what their reaction was, what their thoughts were to you wanting to move abroad, and how you were able to navigate that and still do what it is that you wanted to do.
Well, I come from a family of wonderful people, but I come from, like, on my dad's side, my dad and all of them are immigrants from Trinidad. So, like, that's not, like, they get, like, moving several times, because they first moved from Trinidad to New York. They moved to Texas. So my mom's
It looks like we froze on YouTube. Gosh. I can't see you on YouTube. It froze. I can still see you on Instagram. So it looks like Christine froze on YouTube. Can you, let's see here. It's lagging. Yes. Oh gosh. It popped you out of YouTube. Let's see here. Okay, you're joining back. We have Christine back with us. Okay. Okay, we're good to go. Yay!
Will have things that they have to contend with, like their family's like, oh my goodness, don't do it. Aren't you gonna be scared and stuff like that? I don't have that. You know, when I told my mom I was gonna walk the Camino de Santiago in 2014, it was super random. Like, I had a job in Kuala Lumpur that fell through in early July, and then by August, mid-August, I was in France walking the Camino de Santiago. So she was like, wait, I thought you were moving to Malaysia. Now you're not. Now you're going hiking across Spain for 30 days. What? And she was like, so she's concerned. But she wasn't like, don't do it. Because she was just like, well, I guess if you feel like you need to. But she, you know, she's like, WhatsApp me every day. And so I did. So, you know what I mean? Like,
and that's the difference. I didn't think that internet was as so powerful before leaving the US. I was like telling my parents, I'm like, I'm gonna have to write you letters. And I don't know what in my head I was thinking, but I was reading stuff from before when people were living abroad and they had to write letters. So I assumed that I had to do the same thing in WhatsApp.
That's the thing. Like, you don't know. And with technology, it should make your family like more, you know, comfortable. But you know, the thing is that you have to live your own life on your own terms. Your family, I think for the most part, I would hope their concerns are only coming from a place of love and well-being. They want you to be okay. But at some point, you're gonna just have to do you. And guess what? Sometimes people are not going to come around, and people are going to be mad at you, and you're going to miss things. I think that's something else people don't really talk about, living abroad or having a location independent lifestyle. Like, yeah, you could be like location independent, but if you're in Bali and somebody just had a baby in Atlanta, you may not be able to get back to Atlanta to see the baby for a minute. You know what I mean?
Right. Until the next time you come home.
Exactly. And people don't realize that. Or, you know, people pass and you can't go to the funeral. People are getting married and you're like, yo, I love y'all, but I'm not coming to this wedding. You know, the thing about what it is, like, you may not be able to swing it. And those are some sacrifices that you have to be okay with. And I think a lot of people don't talk about it. You grow and you change. So does the people that your friends and your family do too. Sometimes it's cool and you guys kind of grow and like parallel. Sometimes you guys diverge too. But if you're being true to yourself and you are pursuing your vision for your life and, you know, really trying to cultivate that life well lived, then hey, that's what it is. People are in your life for a reason and a season. So I think that's something that people need to also be really cognizant of. So family, yeah, and friends. Sometimes they're supportive, sometimes they're not.
Wow. Thank you so much, Christine. This was, amazing. This was absolutely amazing. We didn't get any questions, but I feel like I asked some pretty good questions and we got a lot of good information from you in terms of just, I think mostly you touched on the mind frame of what it takes to be location independent. And I think that that's very important because we only see the beautiful side, as you mentioned, being in Bali and all of the other things of location independence. And there's so much more to it. And mainly starting with your mind frame, you know, having that base, your why. Because when you know your why, when the rubber meets the road, when things get challenging, you can always reference that mind frame and keep going. So that's very important.
Yeah, I will say mindset is everything. Your attitude is everything, especially when you're abroad, because, you know, things are just gonna be different, and you gotta and how your experience goes really is dependent on your attitude, right? If you go to any expat forum, you can see it. People who just complain. You're like, why do you live here? Like, you don't like it. Like, why do you live here?
Go somewhere else because you can, and that's the privilege of being American and having your passport where you have access to different places.
That is true, but more than just mindset, you do need to have a game plan. So if you're going to be location independent and you're going to be remote, or you are going to have your own business or whatever it is, you do need a game plan. So I do have a freebie. I have a free resource. It's called Flourish in the Foreign, Build a Business Abroad. And I think that if you can find it on my Instagram and the link in bio part, just grab
Okay.
that there.
And I'll put it in the description box of this video as well so other people can find it.
Yeah, grab it, because what it is that we start off with basically like a roadmap of things that you need to kind of go through before you go abroad and you want to work. We do some of the things I talked about here, figure out what financial wellness, professional wellness means, get your number right. Also do a deep dive analysis into your marketable skills and understand what is a monetizable marketable skill, and what is it that you want to do, and how to assess that and how to monetize that and how to find clients for that. So we do it's like a 101 guide trying to help people get their mind across that. But then also there is another section that helps people really understand some of the key considerations that you need to understand if you're going to be location dependent or build a business abroad. And that runs a gamut from visas, what your visa will not allow you to do, how you will work and not work, tax exposure, business structure, all different types of things that people don't necessarily think about. People think, especially if you have the privilege of having an American passport, you could just live wherever around the world and you just pay American taxes. And that's not how that works. It's not how it works. So I want y'all to be, I want you guys to be on the right side of the law. I know, because the thing about, visas are great, but they are legal instruments. And if you do not, if you are not within the purview of this legal instrument, then it becomes, or it can become null and void, regardless of time or whatever. It's a legal instrument. So if you're doing something you're not supposed to do on your visa, then you don't have a visa no more. If the government finds out, right? Like the government finds out, you don't have a visa anymore. And I want you guys to thrive. And I also want everyone to really think about it as conscious global citizens, right? I want us to go abroad in community. That's so important. It's so important to have a mindset of reciprocity when you're abroad. You're not just trying to escape the US if that's what you want to do. You're like, I just want to escape the US and live my best life. I want you to know that wherever you go, there are people, there's community, and they're not there to be a balm for you. They're not there to heal you. That's not how it works. It's important for everyone to understand that we are in community with each other, regardless of where we are in the world. And that is like the number one way for you to have the best experience and a more transformative experience, and for you to bless other people, is to know that you're in community with other people. And I think that's also really important. So this Build a Business Abroad guide goes over all of these kinds of things. I say grab a glass of wine or a mug of tea, sit down and really think about the life that you want and the business that you want and what are your skills, and really get real with yourself. And I think it'll be a good foundation for you to then therefore take that and go abroad and prosper, or at least start something and prosper. Because I want everyone to live their best life. I want everyone to have whatever they want to have. I do. But what I know for sure is that sometimes we don't actually know that. And so we set ourselves up for disappointment because we have never taken the time to know ourselves. We haven't really understood what we want in this world and what we want to give in this world. So take the time to know yourself before you do it, so that all this effort that you're doing can actually manifest, so that you can actually see the harvest. So you can stop breaking your own heart and stop draining yourself, throwing things out into an abyss because you're not getting anything back. So be intentional. When you're intentional, I promise you, you're going to get so much back. You're going to be like, this is a cheat code, because it is.
Wow. We are going to end there. That was amazing. Let's give Christine some snaps, some claps, whatever floats your boat, because thank you so much. This was very helpful. And I hope everybody listening got some really great insight as to what it takes to be location independent. And remember to answer that why, because that's so important. You have to know your why. So do you have any closing remarks before we end our live?
Thank you so much, Shanay, for this opportunity and for your patience, because it's been a while. We're trying to get this together. So I appreciate your patience and your grace. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And just thank you all for tuning in. I hope that my words could be somewhat helpful to you all. And if you have not checked out my podcast, please do. It's called Flourish in the Foreign. And it really is, it's about elevating and affirming the voices and stories of Black women who are living and thriving all over the world. These are Black women from across the diaspora. And I think it's such a powerful, powerful storytelling platform because you see basically the origin story of these incredible women and how they became who they are today and how they really decided to bet on themselves, which I think is like the underlying theme is having to bet on themselves. So check it out. You can check it out at www.flourishintheforeign.com. Let me know what you think. Slide in my DMs, whatever.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.